Welcome to Rulebooks Anonymous.
Hey everybody, it's James from Rulebooks Anonymous, and I am finally making good on the video that I promised in our episode where we talked about miniatures painting. Again, I would like to stress I am no expert by any means, and I am simply another amateur that has had some success with a few things and liked the way some things turned out. So we thought we would talk about it, and I would show you a couple things. I apologize that this is late. I got nothing. So anyway, without further ado, I know we talked about a couple of key things here, so I'm going to try and cover some of them. I will also do closer up shots that you will see either at the end of the video or if I splice them in. We'll see how much work I'm willing to do on this. So we talked a lot about the big blue guy. That would be this guy right here. I forgot exactly what he is, some sort of monster. But yeah, he was fun to paint. He was a lot bigger, so I didn't have to squint down. See the back. And again, I'll do some close-up stuff later on. Some of the trucks that my wife was talking about for the game Gaslands are things like this. And you just take little Hot Wheels or whatever your preferred miniature car is and glue things to it and paint it up. And I really love the way that this one turned out. It's one of my favorites that I've done so far, just in painting really in general. Just did a nice patina on it, like I said. And these were wire clamps where you put two wires together. This was some ribbon cable, this was a scrubbing pad, just things like that. This one, not as happy with, but overall was alright. Had some of the same features. I tried to use this as like a flamethrower or a cannon in the back. It's just an audio connector that I had sitting around. And then there's I don't know what this is, I think it's just another wire connector, like a fuel tank though, with a piece of wire going up. That's the fuel line. So, it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. Some of the other things I painted, you can go over this. We talked about the one that took me about 18 hours. That is this bugbear right here. If you can see him. It was a stupid amount of time. And please don't be turned off to painting because of how long it took me to do this one. That was me being a perfectionist. Really shouldn't take 18 hours. Unless you want it to. If you want it to, that's fine. This is one that Amanda had done. Malath. This is her little halfling druid that she plays with when we play D&D. This was just some knight that I did. I didn't fix his sword before I painted it. I gave him a little bunny rabbit on his shield. This was one of the... Actually, here, let me find the archer. So this is the first miniature that Amanda and I did together. This is from those boxes, which I'll show you the Reaper boxes in a minute. And we just took turns doing different layers. And I generally liked the way it turned out. I think we both did a pretty good job on it. And then I moved on to, what's this one? Yes, this gentleman right here. I need to do a little bit of touch up on the back side of his sword. He got a little dinged up, but overall not too bad. I was really happy with how that one turned out, especially with when I was talking about that wash, you can see it kind of goes between the little plates of armor there. Again, I'll do some close-ups of these so you can see them. I also did this little dwarf here. Actually, no. Did I do this one? I might have done this one after. Little wizard type druid dwarf. Pretty cool. Got a little lion head on his staff there. And then just another standard dwarf with a hammer, you know, big hammer swinging dwarf. Recently, for myself, since I play a monk in D&D, I did this monk. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. He was pretty cool. The second miniature that Amanda ever did was this orc. Again, he needs a little touch up on his sword because he got dinged up. And I'll talk about some things in a minute you need to make sure you do. So that's him. It's pretty good. I think it was pretty good quality. And then I did some goblins, and one of the ones I wanted to show you, one of my preferred favorites, when I had to make a bunch of zombies for the starter campaign of D&D, where you go up to this wizard's tower, and he's got a bunch of zombies hanging out. So I did a whole bunch of zombies real quick, but this is my my zombie Elvis. I thought he looked like Elvis, and so I painted him in his white jumpsuit with the red trim and the gold and all that. So I was pretty excited about that. This is the wizard that I'm working on right now. He's got a full blue cloak behind him, black staff. I'm doing kind of black armor with this red trim underneath. It actually turned out really cool because I did a black wash on it, so it's filling in quite nicely. The reason I wanted to show you this is not to show you another miniature, but a lot of people go out and they buy these expensive holders to work on their miniatures, and I thought that was silly. And I think someone on Reddit at some point had said, hey, you know, I found these cool things at Michael's and they work really well. And they do. You get a little bit of sticky tack that you hang posters up with on like cement blocks, and you get these two pieces. It's like a little well and or a pot, wooden pot, and I think they use these to make like little dolls for little girls, little craft dolls. And you turn it upside down, put it in there, and it just sits in there. It's a little wobbly, but that's fine because you're usually holding onto this part, and it's nice because you can rotate it around. And furthermore, if you really need to do some bending and turning, like if you have to get underneath, I like to use it like this, and I can just turn them underneath and then flip them back over, or whatever I need to do. Really useful, really cheap. You know, some of the holders that I think Games Workshop and different people have, they're fine, they're nice, but they're expensive, and these are not. And again, I'm an amateur, so I like to keep it cheap. Some of the things that we talked about: magnifying glass. This again was from my mom. Sorry, I broke it, Mom. But it's just a light with a magnifying glass, and for some of that really fine detail work, it's pretty good, pretty useful. With your miniatures, they always suggest you go ahead and wash them when you first get them, because they have this oil or whatever that they use to release them from the mold, and it doesn't do well with paint most of the time, even if they say they're ready to go out of the box. Typically you want to do it, and then you want to prime it. And I have a white prime and a black prime. The one thing I'll mention is with white prime, you need to make sure you cover everything up. With black prime, things don't show up so much. So like if you missed little spots here or there, you're probably going to see it with the white, probably not going to see it with the black. But again, if you want a bright, more airy color underneath, you want to go white. If you're trying to do kind of dark characters like this guy, the black's probably the better way to go. I typically use black most of the time now anymore, just because it works. And then afterwards, you want to seal it. There are other brands, not just Citadel. I have Army Painter, Citadel. It's just what I have. There are other brands, but you want to varnish it afterwards to seal all that paint in. I didn't do a great job on those 2 models that you saw. The paint was coming off the sword. They got nicked, and ultimately you ended up with a little loss of paint. So I'll probably paint those over again just on the sword pieces, and then I'll do a better job sealing them. Both of those were earlier models, so that's why. Palettes, any palette will do. A little dinky one like this, couple bucks. You can tell I use this one a lot. We also use it with my daughter when she does any of her painting, really. And it's great. And they're cheap, you get them at Michael's or wherever. These are the Reaper Bones kits that we were talking about. Learn to paint. This is the first core skill set. I have the second one as well. Never got the third one because I just kind of went off on my own at that point. But they're really great to get started, and I'll show you kind of what they come with. So they come with the miniatures that I had shown you that were part of it. The orc is one of them, and then the other skeleton and the knight. They come with instruction books. That's the other one. Looks like this, and it literally lists step by step what you're supposed to do, and your wash colors, how many drops of each, etc. And it really walks you through exactly how to do all these things. Comes with all these paints. These are still all my original paints from the 2 sets. I think I've added 1 or 2 other that I've bought just offhand, but for the most part, they come in these little bottles, and they're great. And I haven't really run out yet, and I've painted a fair set of miniatures. Not tons, but some. Paintbrushes. I've bought a lot more brushes. I've burned through their brushes quite quickly. I'm partial to 00s, 0s. I do have some 2s. This is a 2. I use it occasionally for bigger stuff. Just kind of depends on what I'm doing. I would say if you're going to buy brushes, try and get a vast assortment of sizes. You know, a couple little ones, a couple medium sized, a couple big. Because there's always a job that you're going to do that will require the brush that you don't have. So then you'll have to ultimately go out and get that brush anyway. Anyway, so that's all I have for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I apologize again for being late, and that's it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Rulebooks Anonymous. You can find us on social media at Rulebooks Anonymous on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Minds.com. Rulebooks Anonymous is available on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and CastBox.